Beyond the Front Page is made possible in part by a grant from the James M. Cox Jr. Foundation and the Dayton Daily News.
You know, when you think about newspapers and careers in newspapers, you mostly think about writers, journalists, and reporters who tell us stories through their words, you know, through their writing. But when we pass a newspaper box or see a stack of papers down at the convenience store, pictures often grab our attention and pull us in. Well, today we're going to explore another kind of journalist, one who tells stories through photographs, graphics, and artwork. Let's call them image creation specialists, and you'll see they live by the belief that a picture is worth 1,000 words.
You want to be the eyes of the reader who wasn't there, and you're going to share a moment with them, and you want that to have some emotion, some impact. You want to be visually interesting. You want to attract their attention, give them the unique view of the commonplace.
Several types of image creation specialists are responsible for the pictures and artwork we see in the paper. They include photographers, photo editors, graphic specialists, and editorial artists. You're probably most familiar with the work of the photographer out there taking pictures. But exactly what does a photographer do?
It's almost the same as a reporter. We report with our camera. A lot of times we'll go out on our own and come up with stuff. In fact, a lot of times we have to.
These aren't just snapshots. It's trying to capture frozen moments that have emotion and impact that make the reader stop and look at it.
The reporter goes through a series of steps in writing a good story, and so will a photographer in shooting a good story. They'll show enterprise by coming up with photo ideas, and as in all forms of reporting, they'll do some information gathering before going out on the shoot.
I generally try to find out what the story's about or what they think it's going to be about and go from there. I try to think about what I'm going to do when I get there, you know, and then a lot of times it won't end up what you think it's going to be. So you have to be pretty much open to anything.
Our chief photographer goes through the assignments that have been brought into the photo department, and he assigns the pictures to each photographer in the morning when we come in. We cover spot news, usually consisting of fires or wrecks. We have several publications within the newspaper that we produce pictures for, starting with the news desk and the sports department and features, business.
Photographers have to be flexible and adapt to many different working situations. Sometimes they work by themselves, but other times they're teamed up with reporters.
The best stories are the ones that combine good photos with good writing. So you have to look at each other as a team. Look at the photographer, someone who can enhance your story, draw people into your story. You need to keep each other informed about what's going on with the story.
I'll listen to them because a lot of times they'll see things that I won't see. And by the same token, I'll try to help a reporter. Hey, did you see this, or did you notice that or something? And so I think it's a give and take.
But in general, you have to trust their expertise and professionalism that they might know better than you know how to illustrate the particular story you're doing.
Well, they tell me a lot of times that, if you get a good picture, that's going to bump their picture up to a page front or something like that, and they want that. So I still, after 25 years, still like to see my picture on the front page.
The job of the photographer is to come back with more than just a couple of snapshots. They may shoot well over 100 exposures to get that one captivating photograph.
On anything, you shoot a roll, at least one 36 exposure roll. On a big story, you could shoot 3 or 4 rolls on a given story. To go cover a college football game, it's not uncommon to shoot 10 or 12 rolls of film, 350, 400 photographs.
A lot of times, I'll go into a place and things aren't clicking. Things are just not working. And what I'll end up doing is staying longer than I ever thought I would stay. There are other times you'll go and bang, you'll get it right away. And you'll know that you have it.
The successful picture has impact and emotion. It conveys an idea. We aren't artists, as in fine art photographers, that are trying to capture what we feel and see. The photographer that works for a newspaper or magazine is out saying to himself or herself, what do I need to show them? You're trying to include all the information necessary, that it's objective and is an honest, straightforward photograph, but at the same time, it reads quickly. Less is more in a newspaper. You want it to be simple and have impact. Not a lot of clutter, a pleasant or unique composition, so that when the reader picks up the paper, they go, oh, that's what's going on there.
After shooting the assignment, the photographer returns to the newspaper to develop the photo negatives. From these negatives, they decide which pictures are worth printing.
The photographer goes through his or her film and picks maybe 3 or 4 photographs from a specific assignment.
After we edit, we take it in and print it, size and crop, pretty much where we think it should be sized and cropped.
As the photographer just mentioned, the picture is sized, blown up or shrunk down, cropped, cut off at the top, bottom, or sides to get rid of any unnecessary information, and color balanced, making sure the flesh tones and the other colors look like they're supposed to. These photographers still use a chemical process to develop negatives from the film, but the printing process has changed dramatically in the last couple of years. No longer do photographers go into a mysterious darkroom and chemically develop their prints. Today, the photo negative can be scanned directly into a computer.
First thing you do is take anti-static cloth and clean the dust off as best you can without scratching the negative. It's then put into a negative holder. Canned air. Wish I'd invented canned air, I'd be rich. And then we insert it into the scanning device, which is a Kodak rapid film scanner. If I wanted to scan it in black and white, I can choose to do so. I won't. I'll do this in color. I'm going to turn it 90 degrees counterclockwise so it'll appear vertically on the screen, and I tell it pre-scan. Now, we know right away it's a little too dark right now, so I'm going to go into brightness, and I'm going to open it up a couple of stops, and then I ask it to view the changes. And I now see that the picture, now that's pretty close to correct. We don't want to over-brighten it in this process. Now I crop, so I only scan in what I want, and I think the picture is going to be used just about like this. Now I've identified the area I want the scanner to gather. I go down here and I click on scan, and it's now beginning the process of making a high resolution scan. Our image is painting onto the screen now. I go in here to adjust levels, and I need, again, to tell this picture what I think is white, what I think is black, and then lighten or darken accordingly. Now I've got to fix that little dust spot in there, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to clone the information from right above it. Now I've got my little rubber stamp here. I hold down my Option key, and I copy the information from right there. Now I go over the image, and I click the mouse, and bingo. I just copied the same gray over it. I've cleaned up my spot. Now we're going to go in here, and we're going to sharpen the image where it's going to go in and sample all those little pixels and clean them up so everything's as crisp as it can possibly be. Nothing that we do with this computer is any more sophisticated than anything we could have done in the darkroom, including lightening or darkening a print or correcting the color balance if it's off. The computer has the ability to actually change information. That is, ethically, we do not change information. No photograph published in this newspaper as a reporting photograph, as fact, has been electronically altered in any way. And I hate to say it, but obviously there's some tabloid newspapers that exist and that's sold in the supermarkets where photographs are actually by computer, are merged together. They can take two people from two separate situations and put them together as if they were walking side by side or whatever. That potential exists. The technology exists to do it.
When the photo is ready, the photographer does a bit of writing and types a caption.
They're responsible for names left to right and the who, what, when, where, and why. A good caption is like the lead of a news story. It should answer the 5 W's, and it should do it in about 3 sentences. We then output to a Hewlett-Packard color proofer a plain paper copy, which is this photo, that the editor can then look at and say, okay, I want to use that 3 columns wide by 8 inches deep. Here's the caption information that the copy desk can use to write the caption for publication.
Photographers at your local newspapers primarily shoot and print pictures for local stories, although sometimes they travel on special assignments.
The transparency film here is a recent job. We were kind of fortunate to be the first civilians into the F-117 stealth fighter simulator area at the simulator plant in Binghamton, New York. And these are some of the pictures I took there. It's one of the fun things about the job because you get to see, possibly be the first person to go see things like this. And in this case, we were the first civilians to get to see what the cockpit looks like. So it was a very fun assignment.
You do things that nobody else can do, or they'd love to do, and, you can't even buy a ticket to it.
I never thought of a photographer as a reporter before. It's really fascinating to see how local photographs get printed in the paper. But what about national news pictures? Every day there are photos from all over the world in the paper. Let's see how those get there. And I'll bet that computers play a role in this process.
This is called a leaf test. It receives photographs from a satellite, which is transmitted to the satellite from New York, and then it comes to a dish on our roof. The Associated Press decided a couple years ago they needed to revamp the way of sending images.
Years ago, it took 10 minutes for one black and white picture to be transmitted here, and it was done over a series of long-distance telephone lines that linked 1,500 newspapers all over the United States. Now we receive a black and white photo in well under a minute, and a color picture, which used to take almost a half an hour to transmit analog, we can now receive in about a minute and a half.
Well, this allows our readers to see and to have a feeling of what's happening with the news that's happening outside of the Dayton area.
The selection of pictures available for the newspaper is 10 times what it used to be. I think it's better for the reader, it's better for us. It gives us much more of an option in terms of designing the page, picking a picture that has the most impact, that has the most information for the reader. Here on the screen are AP photos that continually come in throughout the day. And pictures from China right here. And then you can scroll down through here. The picture editor can sit here and go through the photographs out of Yugoslavia, Russian political situation, wide-awake Russian politician, outside of the parliament in Russia. If you want to see the caption, you call it up on the screen. You have your text information there. We also have the ability to search in the computer by subject. If we want to see only photographs of, let's say, Bill Clinton, we would go into the slug field, type in the word Clinton, It'll now go through, this computer will store about 4,000 photographs. It'll go through, and any photograph that has Clinton in the caption, and in this case either Hillary or President Clinton, will be shown on the screen.
I view the images that are in the machine, and I print out proof sheets on them, give them to our news editor, who will make a decision on what he wants to run in the paper. He will then return it back to me with a size. I will call it up on the screen, size it, and make some color corrections, get it ready for a prepress.
If your local photographer takes a picture of national importance, it could be sent to over 1,500 papers throughout the country in just a matter of minutes. Wire service networks link your community with the world and the world with your community. Photographers and photo editors work with images that are first captured on film and then printed through a computer. But who is it that's responsible for the charts, graphs, illustrations, and other non-photographic artwork in the paper?
So we actually will draw and calculate all the numbers on the computer and combine those for the finished output. A lot of this used to be pretty laborious. You would take the drawing board and then you'd have to have it sent to have typeset, and the color work was all done in a different department. So basically we're doing all that now on the screen, and the computer does a lot of that work for us. I put together a lot of the graphic information for the newspaper. A lot of it's details, numbers that are a little heavy to put into a story, so we break it out and make it fun, so it's a little more interesting to read and understand. Like what we would do, we'd take something that would be normally boring to look at, and we'll translate this information into something a little more entertaining, such as a color graphic. We follow a lot of news events, and a lot of times you can give an address in a story and it doesn't always click where this is at. So we'll try to do a locator map, and we'll try to show a crossroad or a major landmark that people can associate this location, and that helps people identify with the story a little bit.
As you can see, the graphics specialist works with the reporter to add understanding to stories. And just like the photo editor, thanks to satellite technology, has access to information from all over the world.
For national stories and such, we've subscribed to 2 wire services, and we can get a daily accounting of what's available, and the editors will check it out. If it's something that they're going to run a story with, we have access to either downloading it manually through a telephone modem, or we have a little computer that's hooked up next to us here that's connected to a satellite. So there's graphics being sent to us from all over the world, and they can end up in the paper in a matter of minutes.
Well, we've seen that computers and satellites have really changed how information is disseminated throughout the world. Now here's one more person who's seen computer technology change her job as an editorial artist.
It used to be pretty much a messy kind of business, hands-on, paint and rapidograph pens and make a mistake with a technical pen and start over again. But now it's all pretty much computerized. This Smart Money is a good example of that. I could have traditionally done an illustration for this piece, but instead I use the technology to scan things into the computer and computer generate an image so that I can put the type right on the page and work, completely from the computer.
Just like the other image creation specialist, an editorial artist needs to work closely with a reporter to create the appropriate artwork to best illustrate the story. And just like everyone else, the editorial artist gets some direction about what to create.
In the news meetings, they decide what they want, writing-wise, but also what they need graphics-wise to hold that page or to present a package. And then the art director goes to that meeting, and he decides if something can be presented, in a graphic sense, and he brings it back to me. Anything from graphic elements that are packages to small hits like Metro Focus to illustrations for Smart Money, Go Magazine, cover fronts for the food pages, lifestyle pages, and then graphics packages, front page packages, illustrations. These are illustrations for the op-ed page package that they're putting together. And they'll probably not use all of these. There's a lot of text here, so they know when the reporter comes in, he's got all of this text, and it's pretty basic. You know, we need a map of this place, a chart of this, you know, et cetera, et cetera. But with this, for instance, they're saying, gosh, we're doing a story on, you know, working out of your office in your home, you know, and it's got any ideas?
Ideas, creativity, it's all part of the fascinating world of photos and artwork in newspapers. But there's one thing we need to keep in mind. All these reporters and artists team up every day to present the news, entertainment, and information to the readers, often while up against deadlines.
So sometimes the decisions are made very quickly, and that's the success of people in this business, is being able to be decisive, react under pressure, and yet, you know, think clearly. And when you get flustered, then that's when things fall apart.
As we've just seen, computers and other technology continue to transform the photographic and artistic processes daily. I think I'm going to add computers to the list of classes I need to take if I want to work in journalism. You should do the same. Then we'll see you beyond the front page.
Beyond the Front Page is made possible in part by a grant from the James M. Cox Jr. Foundation and the Dayton Daily News.